All right. Yeah, we are up. Okay.
We are experiencing the millennial pause, that
Yes.
portion of the show where people of me and Jeff's age group feel confident suddenly that things are going. That's
Yeah,
right.
you know. All right. So, all right, we're gonna. Well, let me see. Do we have anybody in yet? I don't think
Yeah,
so.
we have a few people. For anyone that is watching this back, we're basically Bill O'Reillying this ninth
We're doing
episode
it
of
live.
the podcast.
Good.
Doing it live because
We
it's
have
a big deal.
because we got the live reaction to the schedule release, and then hey, I mean, it's early in the week anyway, so why not after the schedule release? We have the other sports to talk about. So
That's right. You
nice
can watch us be disgusted live at the fact that there may be a noon game. I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding.
Well, no, remember that they're not going to put that many times up.
Correct.
I think right off the bat. So, anyway, let's set it up. Welcome in. Jeff, Sharon here. We have the student of the game, Kyle Nash. We have Don Strouble. We have Bryson Turner in the house. And this is our 2025 live UCF football schedule release reaction show. And we're going to turn this into our regular weekly podcast, which is usually up by now, but we wanted to push it back a day because of the schedule release. We want to get our reactions to that, and then we'll talk a little basketball toward the end. So, couple things that we want to talk about before we get started. So we're recording this just prior to 11 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, February 4th. What do we know about UCF football schedule right now? Well, there are 3 dates that are locked in. The season ostensibly opens with Jacksonville State on August 28th. North Carolina A&T comes to town the following week, September the 6th. The J-State game, by the way, is a Thursday night. And then the big non-conference Power 5 game, if you will, is North Carolina on the 20th. So that's 2 weeks after NCA&T. Bill Belichick is at North Carolina. Of course, everyone's really excited about that. We're hoping he sticks around long enough because you just never know. What a hell of an experiment that they're conducting up in Chapel Hill this year, huh, boys?
Listen, if you're looking for candidates this year for something like a big noon kickoff or an ESPN game day, that would be it. Granted, I'm not sure exactly what UCF is bringing to the table. They don't have a big name guy like an RJ Harvey on the field, but Frosty coming back, Belichick over there, 2 good coaching stories could be enough to at least make it a candidate. Yeah. I'm sure Eric Lopez will call me nuts, but that's still my opinion that if there's a game on this schedule that's going to get that kind of national attention, it would be that.
And by the way, a slight reunion, I should mention, because Scott Frost, in his NFL playing days, played for then New York Jets defensive coordinator Bill Belichick. Remember, Scott Frost was a safety in the NFL. So a little familiarity there. Of course, Bill Parcells at the time was the head coach of the Jets, who drafted Scott Frost out of Nebraska to be a safety. And Belichick was the defensive coordinator there prior to UCF prior to Frost obviously going into coaching. All right. Checking things out right now. We're about 4 minutes and we got 7 people in here watching via YouTube. Shout out to you guys. Welcome in. And we're about 6 minutes in. All right. UCF, from what I hear, has jumped on board doing the schedule release video thing. I don't know exactly when it's going to come out, but I would imagine pretty quickly. The thing that we're going to be watching is the Big 12 website and then also the ESPN networks to see what they have popping up. So I've got a couple things here. I'm trying to connect to. Okay, there we go. So I have 2 TVs in my office, like over here, and having a heck of a time connecting to my there we go. Okay, because I'm going to try and pull up the special here on the TV so that doesn't blow out my bandwidth. But anyway, what else we know about the schedule? 9 conference games, of course, and this is a 5 road, 4 home season for UCF. 7 total home games, but only 4 of them in conference. Bryson, let me get you in on this. Tell me about what is it that we're really expecting here from that? Because I don't think we have.
Well, Jeff, we already know that one of these 4 home games that's going to be on the schedule, according to Brett McMurphy from yesterday, is a matchup between the 2 Big 12 head coaches making homecomings this season in 2025, with West Virginia coming to the Bounce House to take on UCF on October 18th. So,
right?
I think we're having a little technical difficulties, maybe.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's build on that a little bit, Bryson. What exactly were you talking about there?
I'm saying that Brett McMurphy reported yesterday that one matchup he did see is that on October 18th, West Virginia will be coming to the Bounce House to take on UCF, where the Rich Rodriguez, who's making his return to West Virginia.
So another new coach, by the way, coming into the building with a program.
Yes, but just like Scott Frost is kind of a new old is the new old head coach. Rich Rodriguez is the old new head coach for West Virginia. So
is it old new or new old? Like I feel like it's new old rather than old new, because I never know which to put first there. I don't know. I'm tearing things up here. I'm obviously stalling while Jeff works through whatever he's working through there. But so that's. I'd hate to use the word retread because it sounds negative, but that is obviously, a must watch. I don't know that that's one that would get national attention necessarily too, but obviously West Virginia coming back to the Bounce House, I believe on that particular date. Something that I found that kind of jumped off to me, and we'll get more into it when the actual schedule release gets worked out here and we get it in. I'm noticing that it's another one of these years, gentlemen, where they come out UCF with all home games up front and then close the back half, basically the back half at home 4 straight games. Of course, you mentioned West Virginia. That would be the closing piece. And if UCF is seeing success, that's going to be a huge game too. I don't know what you guys' take on this. Don, weigh in where you want to. Bryson, weigh in where you want to. But it's another one of these instances. I feel like there's something to be said for coming out, getting really comfortable at home, and then, now you have to go on the road. Granted, it's not like going to see to battle a conference champion, a defending conference champion, like they had to do with K-State their first year in the Big 12 2 seasons ago, right, guys? What do you guys think about opening with a home stretch and then waiting till, you're a month into the season before your first road game? I don't dig that. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, you get the 3 at home and then it's 5 straight on the road. And we're going to see what this team is made of in terms of how they handle levels of fatigue, how some of these younger players that are still in classes are going to handle their assignment workloads, and like what the level of prep is going to look like and how it's going to play a part, because it's not going to be easy. Yeah. You get to finish up at home, which is going to be a comfortable setting for you. But you got to go to some tough environments and win some of these games if you want to have a successful first season with the reintroduction of Scott Frost. So I think that it will bode well for them to finish at home, because last year was a mix up, a lot of home away, get more consistency this time around. But yeah, no, that's going to be a tough month or so, just road. So we'll see what they're made of.
All right. So,
Jeff's back. Okay, perfect.
I'm back. Okay. So just popped on about 15 seconds ago, UCF's schedule release video. And I'm actually streaming it right now, but bandwidth issues are what they are. So we're gonna roll through this. All right. I want to, let's see, because it is 11 a.m. right now, Eastern time. some familiar folks up there who you both hear and see. Anyway, all right. Shaquem Griffin and Paul Rubelt part of the gig, and they did a Jeopardy theme. So, all right. I'm watching the UCF football account. You guys, all right. So we know week 4 is North Carolina. We know that. And they're doing it by week, not game, right? So, oh, and it's going. All right.
The schedules have dropped on Twitter, by the way.
Say that again.
The schedules have dropped on Twitter, by the way.
They have dropped on Twitter. Okay.
Yeah, the Big 12 Conference has dropped their diagram, and then the UCF Knights Twitter account, like the @UCF Knights account, has the list.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and bring those up. And I am going to let's go to.
Would you prefer the diagram or the list?
List.
All right.
All right. Live video. You gotta love it, kids. All right. So first thing I think we should do is break down how sort of the flow of the schedule, home weeks, all that kind of stuff. Here it is. Okay.
The 2025 UCF football.
There it is. All right. This is hot off the presses, folks. Here we go. All right. So opener Jackson State, North Carolina A&T. Early bye week. Look at that. They did not.
I was going to ask if anybody picked that out
on the 13th. I thought they possibly would have slipped the conference opener in there somehow. North Carolina on the 20th, opener at K-State, or Big 12 opener, I should say, at K-State in Manhattan on the 27th. October 4th, Kansas makes their first trip here. Out to Cincinnati on the 11th. Home for West Virginia on October 18th. I know that the logos have to do with something there, but family. Okay. Family weekend is 9/6. What's the
homecoming would be West Virginia on the 18th. And of course, Jeff can get his pocket protector out on November 8th against Houston. They finally did it.
Yes.
Maybe Houston will show up with something space themed themselves. Who knows?
We got. Okay. So, now you skipped over one there. We're at Baylor on the 1st.
Oh, I was doing the themes there, Jeff.
Okay. Gotcha. But, because I was about to get Houston at Baylor on the 1st. Our first trip to Baylor. Let's see what else here. Let me pull it out.
We have the second bye week, by the way, is between West Virginia and Baylor.
Oh, there is a second bye week. Yeah, you're right. So there's a second bye week after 4 conference games. That's actually pretty good distribution, if you ask me.
Oh yeah, there
space game November 8th against Houston. Back out to Lubbock 15th. Home for Oklahoma State the 22nd, and that's senior day. And then the season ends regular season ends the 29th of November at BYU. So,
which fascinating stuff, gentlemen. I don't know the last time this team has done. I think that's a Black Friday date. Let me double check. But
I don't think so.
When's the last time this team has finished on the road, gentlemen? That's not something that happens a lot.
That's a good question. Bryson's going to be hard at work today. All right. So,
but actually, no, that's not a Black Friday game. So the tradition broken once again. So it's just for clarity. I'm glad I double checked.
No, it makes that makes sense. Because if we were home, I feel like we might have tried to do a Black Friday game like we did with Utah. But
no,
since
we're on the road there.
Place.
All right. Initial reactions. Kyle, you first.
Another Thursday start. What are we doing? That being said,
that's kind of become our thing now.
That doesn't mean I have to like it, Jeff Sharon. However, I will say this. I know I was talking earlier about opening and getting comfortable at home, waiting a month before you get finally take your first road game. I'm not a fan of that. I really liked it a few years back when Boise State was the second week and they took a good, nice long road trip. Doing that, I think that was something to kind of get the group ready to travel. Yes, unfortunately, John Rice Plumlee got hurt, but that is what it is. And Bryson drops in here 2022, the last road closer UCF
Also, the
has
last
had.
matchup against USF, right?
That's right.
Not the final one is.
Well,
no, yeah, it was. Yeah, you're right.
That was the last one.
I had to think about that. That was that. So the Holy Holler would have been the last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy stuff, gentlemen. So with all that in mind, I forget. I think it was you, Don, that said it was a pretty even distribution of home and away throughout the rest of the season. I like that part of it. I like to buy weeks rather. I like having an extra week to prepare for somebody who is allegedly among the Mount Rushmore of NFL head coaches before going to play that game when you have Scott Frost as a head coach. Not to say he's a bad head coach, but I don't see him on any Mount Rushmores anywhere other than UCF perhaps. So there's a lot of things there that are going well. With that, I get a little, what's his word? Actually, there's no real travel here that's terrible. I mean, what's the longest trip here, fellas? BYU? And that's obviously going to be a game, but
at Baylor's a tough trip. Texas.
We're not catching you, Jeff. You're a little choppy, so I'll keep going for the minute. But like, I mean, among the road trips, guys, is there one here that you would think is most dreaded? Because you're not in a space where you're going to two tough confines back to back, right?
No.
I think not back to back, no, but I do think that given BYU's fan base and given their fanaticism over there, I think that one would probably be the away game that I would be circling, maybe from an atmosphere standpoint, because not only is it the furthest west that you're going to have to travel, but you also have that environment there in Provo.
Yeah, of course. Jeff, we got you back?
Yeah, I think so. You guys hear me good? Okay.
And honestly, given how good all four of these environments are,
I was going to say
it's a good thing we don't have them back to back.
Bryson, you landed the plane, man. Let Jeff get in.
I was going to say, yeah, you don't have them back to back, but those are still four tough roadies there. Manhattan, that's rough. Lubbock, that's a long trip. Even longer road trip out to Provo. And Waco, oh man, I mean that's another. I mean those are four tough road games. Now you're right, no back to backs. That's good.
I'm not all that intimidated by the Baylor trip or the Cincy trip, if I'm being honest, especially compared to the others. Right? Not to say it's easy to go on the road, but
we've Baylor before. That's the thing. Yeah. How do we know?
Well, I'll put it this way: if home field is supposed to be something that was gained, UCF has the unfortunate heartbreak of Baylor at home. Perhaps they have a chance to hand that back. There's all sorts of juju there that could go UCF's way, is what I'm saying.
Here's what I wanted to go over. Let's look at this because I wanted to talk standings from the Big 12 for each of these teams.
No Arizona State or Iowa State on the schedule.
No Arizona State, no Iowa State, no Colorado. BYU, who is 7-2, tied first. Baylor, Texas Tech, who were both 6-3. K-State was 5-4. West Virginia was 5-4. Kansas 4-5. Cincy 3-6. Houston 3-6.
But remember, Kansas also knocked off some of the top teams.
They were
Oak State 0-9. Yeah, I do think Kansas is kind of the sleeper there, but it's kind of you're not going into next year knowing that you're going to be facing, the 9 teams ahead of you. Now, granted, UCF was 2-7 in the conference, tied with 2 others for next to last, but I'm with Bryson. No Arizona State, no Iowa State, no Colorado, no TCU. I think that part of it kind of worked out pretty favorably, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the good thing is that I think it's kind of the trade-off. Do we get some of the hardest places to play in the conference? Yes. But they're not back-to-back, and you don't have to play against the top, 3 of the top 4 teams.
Mm-hmm.
So right. At least from a last year's standpoint.
It's on the non-games. Jacksonville State, Rodriguez was at Jacksonville State. He's now at West Virginia, so you get him on the schedule anyway. Charles Kenny is the new head coach at Jacksonville State, former assistant at Alabama and at Florida State. Most recently was the co-defensive coordinator at Auburn. Was also the defensive coordinator at Colorado in 2023, but that was the bad year that they had in Deion's first year there. He's actually coached at Jacksonville State way back in the day. He was also at Georgia Tech a couple times. And all right, what else do we have here? I wanted to look up North Carolina A&T real quick.
So I'm looking through now the Big 12 awards at the minute, and we're actually avoiding a lot of players, whether it's by graduation or not playing them. A lot of the accolade winners from the Big 12 this time around. The only one I'm seeing right now is West Virginia linebacker Josiah Trotter at the minute, who was Defensive Freshman of the Year last year.
Yeah. North Carolina A&T last year. Well, they're going to have a new head coach in Sean Gibbs. Trying to pull up their seasons. I don't even. Let's see, 2024 last year. They.
Let's see.
Okay, so with everything we have in front of us here, gentlemen, what jumps out? If there's a road trip that you were going to make if you were a fan? I mean, that too clearly feels like Provo, right?
Provo, yeah. Although we played out there before, it was a long time ago.
I was about to say, was it this decade, Jeff?
It was It was the Jeff Godfrey year, I think, right?
Okay. So we're talking nearly
2010, 2011, somewhere around there.
Like Bryson was barely born. No, I'm joking.
Well, I'm just thinking about it from a perspective of like, have we been there before? Right?
Sure.
We've never been to Waco before.
Honestly, I think that might be the road trip some people might that we actually could be more feasible to make. Is it maybe not as a landmark destination as Provo? Probably. But I think from a feasibility standpoint, from travel time to and all that type of stuff, I think Baylor could be the one where we see a pretty solid UCF presence there.
Waco is a little tougher to get to. That stadium there is beautiful. It really is beautiful. Lane Stadium out in Waco is just it is good. It is one of the, I think it's one of the most gorgeous venues in the country to play college football at, I think. And it packed. It can get loud in there. I remember the RG3 years. Ooh, place was a madhouse.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was a decent turnout at Cincinnati, just given the transient nature between Florida and Ohio in terms of the population. A lot of snowbirds come down from there. People go back up. And vice
Says
versa.
the guy who lived in Ohio who now lives in Florida.
You're a detail.
Generally, it's the other way around, but I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised.
This will be very interesting, gentlemen. I just took a look just to make sure. So we will be getting from back to back Kansas going on the road to face DJ Giddens again in Kansas State, who looks like is gonna be back for his senior season, and then Jalen Daniels is going to be coming to town with the Jayhawks. I know that these two have kind of gave UCF.
They have spanked UCF in the past. Bryson Turner, don't dance.
All right. Sorry, I try to be nice on this show, Kyle. I'm not, Kyle. I like to be a good person.
Hey, listen, you can be as nice as you want, but let's not dance around reality, my friend. But that being said, and by the way, this isn't a world where you no longer have Lee Hunter. That revenge matchup should be easy if he's still in those confines for Lubbock, right? So that's a whole not Texas. He's a Texas A&M rather, but like the fact that they won't have him versus Giddens. We're going to have to see some building. John Walker being healthy will be a big deal for that matchup, to say the least.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. We don't have Lee Hunter, but we do have John Walker back. So at least the interior defensive line. Yeah, that should.
And let's not forget Ricky Barber also graduated. May he go in peace.
To the league.
To the league, no doubt. I'm hoping to do some draft profile stuff on him for the blackandgoldbanneret.com.
I'll take it. All right. Couple comments here. Let's see here. Fries says Baylor and there are going to be problems on the road. The schedule alternating road and away is nice. I agree. What's the marquee home conference game, fellas? Houston?
I think from a beaming standpoint, yes.
What do you mean in terms of marquee? Because if you're going to try to sell me Houston over the best mullet in sports, if not the entire planet,
but Oklahoma State's not good.
Yeah, but you see, nobody cares about Houston's football program anymore. Nobody cares. I hate to be the Eric Lopez of this particular episode, but listen, in truth,
Tom Herman days.
Yeah, right. That being said, you could go off book and say Kansas, what they're doing is an elevating football program. Yeah, they struggled last year. Daniels had his struggles at the quarterback position, but he's let's put it this way. I'm curious to see what he does with a clean slate in 2025. Kansas, you mentioned them as a sleeper on the schedule, Jeff. I agree with you. I also think they're the premier, granted, the home conference opener also on top of that, but I think they're certainly the premier home conference opponent, in my opinion. Say what you will.
Yeah. I think Kansas is, from a football standpoint, I think is the most marquee game of the season. I mean, Jalen Daniels, say what you like, you said, Kyle, say what you will. Even if Kansas isn't, even if you beat Kansas is still a problem, I think is a good way to kind of describe that. And so I'm very intrigued to see Jalen Daniels. I've always felt like that if you have a last name of Daniels at quarterback, then you have some talent on you, at least in this day and age.
No, I see what you're doing there. There's some red tails out there. Sorry, there's an NFL franchise out there that took command of that statement. I see what you did there, Bryson Turner. Yeah.
All right, real quick, because we want to move on to basketball and other things, but just to recap the schedule. 2025 schedule is out. UCF starts with Jacksonville State on a Thursday at home, and then North Carolina A&T following that. Bye week, North Carolina 20th. A stay for Kansas at Cincy, home for West Virginia on October 18th. Bye week again, and then they go straight through the month of November. 5 games, 3 of them on the road. At Baylor, home for Houston. That's the space game. At Texas Tech, home for Oklahoma State, and then at BYU to finish out. Of course, we'll be following everything as things develop. Hopefully we'll be getting some also we'll be reaching out to some of our compatriots in the SB Nation network, hoping that we can get some insight on their teams. Of course, we're still in roster flux right now with a lot of guys too. So
who isn't? That's
the other thing. Yeah, I know. But again, it's 2 homes against one FBS opponent and then one FCS opponent. Bye week, 5 straight, including 4 conference games, 3 of them at home, 2 on the road, then another bye week, and then 3 on the road, 2 at home.
That's not a bad mix at all.
Yeah, I got to say, it doesn't trigger my anxiety. I'll tell you that.
I mean, listen, DJ Giddens running the football, Avery Johnson still at quarterback. That's going to be a tough duo to open the conference with. It's not Will Howard this time, granted, like 2 years ago, but that's something that as close as I've been looking, Jeff, at the offensive line moves that Scott Frost has made. Now it's going to be time to fill out that defensive line, especially in the middle there. So it'll be very interesting to see.
Gotcha. All right, cool. So we'll be breaking this down, probably get another post on blackandgoldbanneret.com as well, kind of breaking things down too. All right, let's move forward to men's basketball as UCF right now at 13-8, 4-6 in the conference following what was I'll calculate that as a heartbreaker against BYU. on Saturday. 81-75 was the final in a game that was back and forth. It was very physical, classic game against BYU. They're going to give you a little bit extra every single time. A game that UCF looked like they let slip away to some extent. 4 players in double figures. Keyshawn Hall, back off the schneid, 20 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists and a block, 6 of 6 from the line. Mustafa Chum had probably, I think, his best all-around offensive game that I've seen him play. He was pulling out the entire repertoire. 7 of 12, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 3 blocks. DJ had 16 points on 4 of 13 shooting. They did a pretty good job of harassing him in the backcourt as against Jordan Murray. Juice 3 of 7 from 15 points, 1 assist, 1 steal. But those 2 guys combined in the backcourt were 8 of 25. And so off the bench, didn't really get that much bench production at all. In fact, only 6 points off the bench. Nils Mahovsky and Rokas Yost. Now, Mikey Williams was sick, did not play. JJ Taylor was sick, did not play. Hoping that we get them back in terms for this one. But I thought that this one really hurt because it felt like it was one of those home games that you got to get. Granted, BYU, but it was one of those games that you got to get in advance if you really pump up your resume for the NCAA tournament. And Don, I want to start with you on this one. To what extent was the damage here?
Yeah, so it was one of those situations where this was a must-win game. We're halfway through the Big 12 slate, just 10 games left, and UCF, from what I understand, is the first team out. And so they really have to come into Wednesday and win that game, or else their tournament chances are going to be even more jeopardized than they already are. It was one of those things where I think that this was a team that got frustrated early. We saw Keyshawn Hall pick up that early tech. And
that was his 3rd personal foul right after he got called for his personal foul.
Yep. And then Darius Johnson had to sit down as well. And that's something that Coach Dawkins said post-game is he's like, I don't need those guys sitting next to me. I need them out there, keeping a level head, staying disciplined.
Especially in a situation where you already have 2 players out.
You're playing with a short bench and 2 key guys. I mean, JJ Taylor can come out anytime and give you double digits in scoring. And so I think it's one of those things where this team, they have to bounce back. You're not at a position anymore where there's much room for error. Now, Jeff, I do agree with you about Mustafa. This was once again just an excellent offensive performance by him. And he came into this game averaging 15 points and 2.5 blocks over his previous 4 prior to this one. Yeah. So I think that we're really seeing him grow up. He's displaying his range, and 17 points, 7 of those came on a 7-0 run that he went on by himself. I think UCF went almost 5 minutes without scoring to open the second half. They got down. It was either 6 or 8 points. And then Mustafa went on that 7-0 run, hit that 3, hit a couple more, really got them back in it. But yeah, you got to shoot the ball better. You have to keep a level head. And I understand, there was a lot of BYU fans there. I thought there was a lot of Kansas fans at that game. I have never in my life seen an event for an opposing fan base going on. They had it going on in John Juliano Park. They had a bunch of inflatable stuff set up, a bunch of BYU fans over there. And so that was, they were getting loud, and no. Wednesday needs to happen for this team.
I got to give the BYU Alumni Association credit because they actually took over one of the elementary schools nearby for a fan fest prior to the football game this year. Remember?
You're giving them all this credit. Gentlemen, this is fun for them. This is life. When you live in a vacation destination and that's your college town, everybody wants to be here. Let's be clear about that. Don't give them props for, hey, you guys did a great job wanting to party. I'm sorry, I can't sign off on that, Jeff.
Are you trying to tell us that we're the college sports version of the Raiders?
No, go home, Bryson. What are you doing? See, now who's being positive now, right?
I mean, look, I'm just trying to say that it could be worse is all I'm saying.
All right.
I didn't say it was bad. I find it hard to give credit to people who are vacationing. That's all.
Well, let me get Elo in here, who's finally wrapped up his softball stuff for the day. I think.
No, not even close.
Not even.
Come on, it's still Christmas for Eric Lopez, the Sultan of softball.
I want to get your take in on this here, Eric, because this BYU game, this one felt like it had it. We were in, and then it popped us back out of the bubble.
Yeah, I think.
And Lunardi says the same thing. We are the first team out right now. So what do we got to do to get back in? Other than, of course, win.
Well, to Don's point, got to win Wednesday night. Cincinnati's a must-win. Like, BYU is a bad matchup. It just is. This is the fourth time you've lost to BYU the last 2 years. They stretch you out on the court, make you guard the three. When they're shooting it like they did Saturday, it's tough to defend. It makes you over-pursue. They got to drive, kick. It's just a bad matchup. And, give credit to BYU. I mean, they're a good team. So here's where they're at. What that means is, yes, you got to win Wednesday. I 100% agree with Don. Cincinnati, we said this last week. You've got to, these are two teams that have been a thorn over the last few years. You've got to win the Cincinnati game. Cincinnati's coming off a loss. Because after that, you got to go to Baylor. That will not be easy in basketball or football, for that matter. In fact, I mean, football's going to lose at Baylor. That's a whole other story.
Calling the shot all the way in
let's
November.
just stay.
Okay, listen. Stay in Christmas.
Eric already hanging L's.
It
is February. February 4th, and Eric's already just throwing L's up on there.
I mean, let's just see what the football.
Kids are supposed to be happy at Christmas. You're at Christmas. Why are you being mean, man?
I'm just
saying.
Groundhog
Day was 2 days ago.
I mean, the roster isn't even solidified yet. Jeez.
By the way, make sure you see all of the photos and video of Eric at his happiest covering Softball Media Day on the Black and Gold Banner at YouTube channel.
Thank you for the plug. Appreciate it. Plenty of softball to go. So they got to go to Baylor basketball. Then they host Iowa State, which Don was talking about the amount of BYU fans. Wait till you see the Iowa State fans that come in. Holy macro. So they got to win the Cincinnati game to stay afloat. And then they're going to have to steal a game whether it is winning at Baylor, whether it is winning against Iowa State, or winning at West Virginia at the end of the regular season. They're probably going to have to steal a game there, win a game, a quad one type of game to get back on float. I don't think you're like, yes, Lunardi has you as a first four out. I think most projections have them as a first four out. That's okay. That's you're not out of it, but there is some urgency to where you've got to win your home games. And that's kind of been the bummed out about it. You've lost now 3 home games in conference. Like, you've actually, in a weird way, you've been a better road team, I would argue, than you've been at home. Really, if you look at it, they played well at Arizona, who, by the way, is tied for first in the Big 12 now. You won at Arizona State. You've won at Texas Tech. You played Kansas really well. For whatever the reason, they have been a better road team. So it's very bizarre. This whole team is bizarre. They don't defend as well. They're good at offense. They would play on it. It's all over the place. But I agree with Don. Cincinnati is a must-win on Wednesday.
Well, hold on there, Eric, because I feel like that the fact that this team, it is great on the road, mind you, but looking at the home slate, I mean, the Kansas game is probably I would say the biggest blunder of this team at home, but they proven on the road against Kansas that game was a fluke. That you have Colorado, which was a 1-point game. Okay, I can
kind of winless Colorado team.
Well, yeah, that looks rough.
That's the murder.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see that. Then you have top 10 Houston. Played them right to the end. Again, 1 point. I think if I remember that our RPI wasn't really affected by all that much by that one.
Real quick, for all our RPI nerds here on the panel, what was more painful, the 50-point loss to Kansas or losing to Colorado?
Well, winning. We won by 1. We did win the Colorado game. We did.
Excuse me. I shouldn't have said loss.
The Kansas one, just because of 50-point blowout, they dropped 20 spots in the
to me, like in a committee discussion, they're going to be talking about UCF. They're not going to be there's going to be some in the back of the room. I'm going to say they lost or to buckets. The arguments
how
gives
the
us that
tables have turned. The
points.
guy that's killed all the humans, let the computers do everything, suddenly is relying on the committee to bail his team out.
I'm not. I'm not saying the committee's right at all.
Oh.
I'm just saying there's going to be some jerk back there who's going to be, bringing that up,
UCF was kind of a fluke with that whole 50-point thing. Look what they did in Lauren.
Well, the computers are whacked too, by the way, in fairness. I mean,
of course.
All I'm saying to me is that I still think the jury is still relatively out in terms of UCF at home in conference play, because Kansas was a fluke. Houston's a top 10 team in the nation, and we play them really close. The other two games that we have to work with here are TCU, which we dominated, and then BYU, which we played all the way up to the end, and then we kind of lost it.
Man,
so,
isn't that Elo's point in a nutshell?
That's my point.
The point is, I think we're one, and I think that we're about like splitting the difference at home. I think we're like maybe right at the middle, if a little bit favorable. Are we? Have we been a better?
But again,
yes.
my argument is, if you look back, what has been their best wins? It's on the road. That's been their best wins in the conference. Have been on the road. Sure. Texas Tech's a great win in the resume.
Yep.
You've got, and I'm talking conference only. Obviously, you have the A&M win at home and all that, but the BYU game is a game you got to get. You got to get that game. Find a way.
Not to apply revisionist history here, but let's remember context. That Houston game was in the palm of their hands. UCF lost that game for themselves. Missed free throws,
couple turnovers. No doubt.
Yep.
Yes, but you caught
Houston at a bad day. You caught Houston at their worst day. You had him right there.
You had to take advantage.
So does the guy at the back of the room in the committee that Jeff is talking about, does he use that for or against UCF?
No. I think here's the problem they have. If it's them versus a brand like North Carolina, they're not going to get the benefit.
That wasn't going to be. They're not going to get the benefit of down against North Carolina ever.
No, I bring that up because
the fact that North Carolina sucks.
They're
terrible.
Sure, but I mean, brand-wise, Elo, like always, UCF's going to lose the brand battle. But like, what's another kind of? I don't want to use the term mid-major.
Well, no, but like Jeff's he's right. North Carolina's terrible, but yet North Carolina has a better net rankings for all you geeks that think computers solve everything. That don't need
from downtown.
I mean, that's a great example why computers are a joke, because eyeball test, UCF's better than North Carolina. But my point is, they're going to have to me, to give some room for error. That's my concern. Is there? You got to, 10-10 Big 12 may or may not get you in, depending on who you beat. You may have to win a game or two in the Big 12 tournament. That's, you got to worry about, some bid stealing. You got to worry about
something to remove the doubt, Lopez. That's
exactly.
where I think you're right.
100%. Whether that's winning at Baylor, whether that's beating Iowa State, those are probably, or winning at West Virginia. Those are three games. You've got to win one of those three to really amp up the momentum here, because you're not going to get credit for winning at Colorado or at Oklahoma State or beating Kansas State, although Kansas State just knocked off a big win at Iowa State. So this league is brutal when it comes to that.
Here's what I looked at, because you guys know how much I like Bart Torvik's site, right? We got 10 games left. If we win all of the home games, and that includes Iowa State, all right, and even and we win the following on the road: Colorado, which we're favored in, Oklahoma State, which we're favored in. That would put us, and then if we split in the Big 12 tournament, that would put us at 20-13, 10-10 in the conference. And that would put us in.
That's always been the magic number, right?
Probably Dayton. You're probably going to Dayton, Ohio for the play-in at that point. But that's my point.
But then you're in.
But to Kyle's question and his point, that's not a lot of room for error. That's a very thin track that you're going there, where that's a very narrow margin. You don't have a ton of room. Whereas, if you win the BYU game, maybe if you get a stop in the Houston game, you get some more breathing room. So again, you look at those three games. Yes, you got to win at least one of those games. And that's assuming you don't drop a game that you're not supposed to. Like the Oklahoma State home game is a non-negotiable. You have to win that game. You have to win that game. Under no circumstances you can lose. I don't care if we have half the team on the sick. You got to win that game, because that is going to torpedo
Utah at home too.
Utah at home too. And that's back to my original point. Gotta win home games. That's the thing that's so perplexing. They've done their part on the road more than most teams do. And so you gotta win those home games. Starting with Wednesday night Cincinnati. I cannot emphasize enough how big the Cincinnati game is. Because if you lose the Cincinnati game, now you're digging yourself a hole that you're probably not going to be able to get out of. And I don't want to go to Kansas City needing to win, get to the semifinals of the Big 12 tournament. That's just not a good recipe at that point.
So long of the short, build up enough capital so you can apply the DJ Khaled defense.
Yeah. I just don't want to get into a Selection Sunday debate where it comes down to us and the 12th place SEC team and potentially a North Carolina. You're not going to win that.
Take the brand battle out of it. That's what has to happen for UCF, period.
So Cincinnati is 14th in the nation and second in the Big 12 in scoring defense. They're second in the Big 12 in turnovers per game. But this is something that I think could be interesting, Eric, and that's something to keep an eye out on. Cincinnati leads the Big 12 and is 11th in the nation in fouls per game, which means they are top 15 in the nation in fewest fouls per game. Given how this UCF team has been able to really succeed at the free throw line when they're able to get there, the fact that Cincinnati really hasn't been giving much causes me a little bit concerned.
Well, they're good
classic
defensive
Cincinnati
team.
Identity, right? They're a defensive team, right, Elo?
Well, they have been this year. They're struggling in the offense. They've been a disappointment. A lot of people thought they were top 25 preseason. A lot of people thought they would be a kind of a flavor pick, if you will, in the Big 12.
There are some grumblings about the head coach too, from what I hear.
Wesley Miller. We'll see. We'll see, but they're good defensively, so that's going to be interesting. They've struggled offensively. Does UCF's defense take advantage of that, or is Cincinnati maybe get hot against UCF's defense? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Where are they in the net rankings, by the way? Do you guys who has?
So wait, while you're looking at that, are we making a point that if Johnny Dawkins and company beats Cincinnati, that's something else we can blame on Johnny Dawkins if the Cincinnati head coach loses his job? I'm just asking.
Well, who knows? I don't know. I don't really care what Cincinnati does with their basketball. But they are disappointed.
Cincinnati is 53 in the net ranking.
See that again, for all you geeks that think computers are the answer to every metric.
Here he comes.
That is absurd. That is absurd. In what world is Cincinnati should be ranked ahead of UCF, right? Based on what they've done on the court is ridiculous.
There's still pulling from that non-conference.
I don't care. The humans have UCF ahead of Cincinnati, by the way. Joe Lenardi's in the world. They have them ahead. That is why the humans will always be, in fact, the deciding factor, because the metrics are just.
But the humans would put North Carolina in over UCF, even though you said UCF better than North Carolina. Is that right?
Well, because Carolina played a tougher non-conference schedule, and that brings eyeballs. And last I checked, this is a television product. College sports are a television.
So what you're saying is that the humans are flawed.
So are the computers.
Not as flawed as the computers.
Because the humans that program the computers are also flawed. You're going to lose this argument against the data man, Jeff Sharon. I'm going to tell you that up front.
There is no defense for UCF being as low as they are in the net. They're actually, if the RPI, Bryson brought up the RPI, if they were using the RPI, UCF would actually be in great shape to be in the tournament. I think they're in the 30s RPI. They'd be still in the bubble, but the other metrics, KPI likes them. Because they actually value what you do on the court. The problem with the net is you're putting things like margin of victory and how efficient are you on defense and who gives a crap? If you win ugly, it's a win. That's what it's supposed to be about, not whether they were real efficient.
That part is for breaking close ties more than anything else, I think, Eric. And again, as you know, I think that's more relevant to decide like 1 and 2, that kind of stuff. I think that's less out of the realm. But no, you don't have to like it. I'm just telling you why I think it's there. Also,
no, I don't disagree with you on that.
Right. Over a longer span of time, now that we actually have significant data, some of the wild swings and screw ups we see earlier in the season are starting to level out. But at the end of the day, I can't give you a defense for what's going on with some of these situations that you don't like, Eric Lopez. Haters gonna hate. That's the defense.
No, that's true. It's just I'm really annoyed because they don't have a quote bad loss. All the UCF losses are quad ones, and then the LSU one is a quad 2. That's one's not aging well. That's one's just going to haunt us.
But they don't. The thing.
Say what?
Wins that.
They have more wins than teams like the Carolinas and the Indianas.
I agree. But
but the computers disagree.
Look at
the computers have them ranked ahead of UCF for some stupid reason. So it's not just the human element. The computers are actually giving the humans the excuse to put in bigger brands because they're ranked because, they play in these tournaments that it's made for TV events. So it's all nonsensical. But that's it being said, all of this is irrelevant if UCF doesn't beat Cincinnati. To Don's point, to begin this, they have to win this game. Otherwise, it is a big hill to climb.
All of this to say that Donnie Docks knows ball.
He does.
Jeez, Eric, it's almost like this. It's almost like it was designed that way. No,
whoa! Put that tinfoil hat away, Bryson Turner.
All I'm saying is, coming never to a theater near you, Terminator 7, starring Eric Lopez.
Oh, for goodness.
Here's the good news. Here's the good news about this Cincinnati game. We're not going to panic and just pull our quarterback to start somebody else against Cincinnati this time.
Shots fired.
I'll tell you this right now. Dawkins said post-game after the loss to BYU that he lives for these moments. He was raised in these moments in his career to win these kind of games with these kind of stakes on the line. So we know
this is exciting. Yeah, you should be excited. Absolutely.
Yeah. These next three, huge. Cincinnati, Wednesday, 7 p.m., CBS Sports Network. MOD is doing that game from what I hear, Eric.
Well, we need all the friendly
help we can get. And then at Baylor, Saturday, 2 p.m., that's an ESPN Plus game out in Waco. Tuesday, February 11th, UCF against number 3, Iowa State. Iowa State, by the way. Well, at least we're going to have them several games after they had that embarrassing home loss to Kansas State. Holy smokes!
Rather than right after to get another pissed off team.
I know, right, which would have been par for the course anyway. So there's your men's basketball situation as it stands at the moment. Who's going to be there tomorrow night?
Don himself.
Don, you'll be there. All right, cool.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick over to the women. Finally got off the schneid at long last against Houston on Saturday. 70-56 victory for their first conference win.
By the way, Coach Messer, I'm not going to take it personal that the game that I don't make it to is the one you win. I'm just saying.
Well, maybe. I don't know, Kyle. I'm just saying.
See, Elo jumps off just in time. He would have been throwing the shade if you didn't. That's okay. What about you, Bryson Turner? What did you think?
Well, let's go. We got our first win. It was only against a team that played their starting 5 on the court the entire 40 minutes.
Listen, don't let facts cloud up the narrative.
And that was it really was something for all these teams out here. So Caitlin Peterson led the way for UCF with 28, 15 for Neve Brown, 11 for Allie Stedman. I think that might be a season high for Allie.
How many was it? I didn't hear the number.
11.
Yeah. Well, I think 10 was her previous high. So yeah.
Right. So yeah. Ashola Cott added 6. Now, still a pretty short rotation. UCF had 8 players. Houston, like you said, Houston played all 5 available. And they're going through it too right now, aren't they, Bryson?
Illnesses, injury. Somebody had a bereavement leave for this game on that squad.
Yes, there were only 6 available players for this one, so it seems like Coach Huey took the route of just play the whole starting 5 just in case somebody fouls out. Which, by the way, Garciera Merchant did get 3 fouls, so there was a distinct possibility that one of Houston could have fouled out in that game, and they would have had to use their 6 players. So they just got to do what they had to do. They were actually leading the game after the first quarter. So Kyle, the slow starts continue for UCF after losing in the first quarter, but the fatigue did catch up with them later. I think UCF was able to actually get going with the 3 ball. Coach Messer told me actually that following the game against Baylor, the day after in practice, they started working on their 3-point shooting. And lo and behold, they respond with their best 3-point shooting game of the season, going 10 of 21.
That's a good number. Even if it isn't your best of the season, that's a good number.
Yeah,
by the way,
50% from the 3-point line. Yeah, I'll
good
take it.
Strategy to stretch a team that has such a limited group out as they were there too. But I want to point to something else too. And I talked about this the previous game against Baylor, I talked with Neve Brown as the point guard, seeing all these different rotations and what kind of a challenge that is to see her come in and not only put up 15, but then 5 assists as well with all these different groups is just a sight to behold for me. How do you do all this adjustment to make sure KP gets her touches, but then understand where other players are going to be? And then you got Mahogany Chandler Roberts as a freshman now starting. It's all over the place with whatever the lineup is, but nonetheless, Neve Brown being a leader out there, and what is it? She's coming off a back-to-back 20-plus point games and then throws in 15 here. Just an amazing run by her lately. I had to point her out.
Well, we got the Utah road trip up this week now. Provo on Wednesday, 9 p.m. ESPN Plus, and then Salt Lake City to face Utah at 3:30 on Saturday, February 8th. Now, BYU is struggling. They're in the bottom level of the conference at 2-8 over in the league. UCF right now 1-9. Cougars are 11-10. They're coming off of a victory at Arizona State, who also has only 2 wins in conference on the year. And then Utah right now is at 16-5, 7-3. That's going to be a very tall order. But here's another chance to get one more road win, right, Bryson?
Your first road win in conference.
Correct.
Right, first road win in conference. But do they have did this win at home give them enough confidence, do you think, to help try and push them over the top here?
Well, actually, I think the 3-pointers could actually be pretty key here because BYU is actually 34th in the nation and 5th in the Big 12 in 3-pointers per game. And so given the work they've been doing with the 3 lately, they're going to have to probably match that if they're going to want to keep in the game with BYU here. So I think that BYU could be really interesting. It's a really good game to gauge how they've responded. And Coach Huey said something really interesting to me in postgame. He noticed during this game that this women's basketball team looked like they were having more fun playing with each other than they have been in the tape that he watched.
That's an interesting point, Bryson Turner.
Given the struggles we've seen this team go through this season and the controversies we've seen, check out blackandgoldbanner.com for Kyle Nash's article about Hannah Gusters. Given the controversy and adversity this team has gone through, to see an opposing coach point this out about a team playing looser with each other now. I mean, maybe they just been able to kind of let things go a little bit more. But if they can carry this over to later games, then I think that we could potentially see them steal one more. And BYU could be a good place to do that given their 3-point history.
Well, I might add, I mean, I saw Coach Messer's post game with the team, and she said, we finally got it off our back. Now we got to keep putting in the work. And now remove that level of burden. You to your point, Bryson, what Coach Hugh said about them playing loose, are they going to play even more loose now? Now you got to stay disciplined, right? But if you're going to get the kind of contributions, I mean, you know what KP is going to give you, but Ashol had 14 total rebounds. You know, she's just been a force on the glass. You continue to get Nevaeh scoring and contributions from everybody else. Yeah, I think that this is a very winnable game.
All right. Go ahead, Brian. Kyle.
Well, and I'll add this too. I don't think it's about loose. It's about confidence. And if this team's having fun, hope is a dangerous thing for an opponent when you start to believe in yourself. And that's
like college basketball.
100%. You know, I think, by the way, I know they're still missing people. Emily Rodriguez is still out. I don't know if they'll get her back before the end of the year. That would be nice to have her for the tournament. But this group finally getting comfortable and finding a groove and reintroducing perhaps Rodriguez later, hopefully, that would be another little uplift they can get. If this group ends up winning a conference tournament game, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself, this would be enough to then go out there in the recruiting trail and be like, listen, I know this happened. We had illness. We had injury. I was cleaning a house. It was a thing. But I'm Satia Messer. I made this happen. We came together as a team and did this. So come play with us and you know, play some next level Big 12 basketball. That's the hope there as she's moving forward.
All right. Well, again, it's a tough road trip. It's a tough ask, but I think they can, there's definitely a chance to pull this one off. And then who knows?
This is the best it's looked all year with
yes.
this, Jeff. It's crazy to me how that's the case.
It's also amazing. I mean, everyone's always said that, we always say that about football. Like the hardest score to get in a game is the first one.
Yeah.
Put points on the board. I think it's the same thing in basketball from a season perspective. You got to put points on the board, right? And they finally got some points on the board.
There's a manageable, winnable games here. And remember, we keep forgetting this. This team was picked near the bottom of the league. It's not like they're under it. I know it's been ugly, but it's not like they've underachieved, Kyle. It's not like they're, oh my God, they were supposed to be a top 4 team in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Certainly not.
No,
Certainly
they're not. What Messer has been able to do the past couple of years is, even though the records have not been in her favor, there's always been a little bit something in this team, just a little something that gives you hope for later. And I know, Kyle, hope can drive a man insane, but I think that the hope is there because there's just something there. And Coach Messer, I think, is kind of fighting to get that something from this squad to maybe have some positive momentum going into the offseason.
Well, I'm going to steal Don's quote. I'll never forget Don mentioned this after the Utah game, which I actually believe was the reason why Gus resigned and went to the FSU. You heard what Don said. He Don's right. I don't have a core here, so I need to bail. What's the core going into next year? That's what the rest of the season's about for this women's team. Do you have that core that stays, comes back and builds some here at the end of the year into next year? Yeah. I think is certainly something to watch in the next month.
All right. Next game out in Provo, we'll be keeping an eye on it. Let's move real quick because we're just about ready to wrap up here. Men's tennis made some history, Bryson Turner, real quick. They are now 8-0, and if I'm not mistaken, that is their best start in school history. Is that right?
Yes, they've done it again in year 2 under Lloyd Bruce Burgess. They went 7-0 last year for the first time program history, and now they've gone out to their first 8-0 start in program history, thanks to a 4-3 win out in Tampa against South Florida. Pulled off another doubles point, Jeff. The UCF has been really improved on the doubles points this time around. And then Yassine Delimi managed to take down the number 114 ranked player in the nation in 3 sets to get the clinching point. So well done to the Knights for securing history. This is great momentum coming off ITA kickoff weekend and getting wins there. They have 2 more chances to prepare for the ITA Indoor Championship, which is the reward they get for winning ITA kickoff weekend. They play Miami on Friday at noon, and then Sunday in Boca Raton against FAU before they go out to Waco on February 14th for the ITA Indoor Championships.
Both of those dual matches are going to be in South Florida. Like you mentioned, Bryson, Coral Gables Friday at 7, Sunday, February 9th, prior to ITAs. All right. We will get more of that in our nightcap as well, which you can follow on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Bryson, as usual, working very hard on that. Last little thing we'll do before we wrap up here. Softball, just about to start. Eric Lopez, we are 2 days away from opening day. Our softball preview podcast is up on our podcast feed, so make sure you download that. Eric, Don, and Bryson getting to hear from Coach Ball Malone and 3 other players as well. Quick little preview for us right now, Eric, on UCF softball on this opening weekend. They have a doubleheader to open on Thursday, the second of which is the marquee game against the Georgia Bulldogs, a team that UCF is quite familiar with over the years, including some pretty dramatic early season games. Eric, your outlook right now for this weekend?
Well, it's a lot of unknown. I just did a podcast with ESPN Amanda Scarborough. She described this year in college softball as the year of the unknown because there's so much youth in the sport because of the graduation.
You mean we don't know about Oklahoma?
No, they're young. I mean, they're still good, but they're young. And that's the thing. There's a lot of youth in the sport because of the graduations with graduates, the COVID seniors and the regular seniors. So, like, Georgia's very much in the same boat that UCF is in that they both have a young rosters. So it's really learning this group. And we'll spend a lot of time doing that on the podcast there we did with me and Don and Bryson. I mean, it's a young team. The core is the term that Don has used. is going to be this freshman and sophomore class of UCF. This is a new generation. Like, I'll give you a TV version of this. It's kind of like a famous TV show, and then they reboot and go with a different, cast. So how do they do? How quickly do they grow up? And so I think that's one thing we'll watch. It's probably the second best tournament in the country this weekend, because Coach Bear just likes to go all in on scheduling top teams. So you got Georgia, you got NC State, Illinois, and JMU. JMU's my pick to win the Sun Belt there. And then Cal State Bakersfield. That's a tough field. Then you go host Missouri and you host Liberty, 2 top 25 teams midweek before you go to ESPN's Clearwater. So this is a rough stretch. There are going to be some ups and downs. Patience is going to be a word that I'm going to use a lot with this group. I wouldn't jump to conclusions right away. I know we like to do that in out there in the stratosphere, but it's a talented. It happens.
That doesn't happen on this show. Sorry, go ahead.
It's a talented team. It's a young, talented team. Well, I mean, if the sport deserves it, it deserves it. But what it is. Listen, I mean, I'm just saying.
Where's the soapbox? Where's the soapbox?
By the way, that football game against BYU, 10:30, 10:30 Eastern start time on rivalry weekend on that one.
Can you just stop? Now you're just being mean, Lopez. Come on.
Don't put that evil on us.
I only bring that up because ESPN is going to announce the softball schedule on Wednesday, and I've been told to look for one of the UCF. Could be a possibility. UCF's home game, one of them against Oklahoma State, might get picked up for linear. So, which is in Big 12, the favorites to win the Big 12. So, thank you, Kyle. Thank you. So we'll see. It's a young team. Yesenia Lopez is a pitcher to watch. The freshman, she's the highest touted recruit pitcher since Shelby Turner, maybe even higher, actually. We'll see how quickly does she grow in this pitching staff with Caitlin Felt. Correct. So we'll see. Young group, lot to learn. Sierra Humphreys, probably the best all-around player on this team. Does she take a different level? How quickly do these freshmen quickly step up against good competition? We'll see soon.
All right. We'll be keeping an eye on Georgia's opener. The open SU Baker 3:33, and then Georgia Friday against NC State.
By the way, every game in this tournament will be broadcasted on ESPN Plus. I will be calling 12 of those games. Austin Lyon will be calling some of the other games. Alex Powers is doing literally every game. She will live there. Bryson and Don, if you go there, just give her some water or something. I don't know.
Austin coming in to pinch hit for Eric Lopez, who has a lot of prep work to do for this one. All right. Well, it should be it's good to have softball. I think the weather's supposed to be very good coming in. Is that right?
That's correct, which is good. We have a game. That's correct. We have sold-out season tickets. Probably we're going to have a pretty close to a sellout crowd for Georgia. So good thing we have good weather. Yes, I expect the big crowds all weekend. Only UCF sporting event on campus.
All right. So we'll be keeping an eye on basketball as well as we're up here on the Night Podcast. Again, huge thanks to you. Make sure you check out the softball preview podcast. Also, everything you need to know about UCF softball coming up on the site shortly. Huge thanks to Eric. Huge thanks to Kyle. Eric is at Eric Lopez Elo. Kyle's at the SOTG for the student of the game. Follow Bryson at It's Bryson Turner. Follow Don at Don Documents 407. You can follow me at on Blue Sky. Just look up Jeff Sharon. All right. Thanks to all of you who have hung out through the entire hour and 8 minutes. The 2025 football schedule is up. We'll be breaking down that as well. Huge thanks to everyone who chimed in on the live stream on this Tuesday morning as we head right into we're just about midday here on Tuesday, February 4th. Again, tremendous thanks for all of your support. Make sure you follow us on X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and of course, don't forget our YouTube channel as well. For all of us at blackandgoldbanneret.com and the Night Shift Podcast, I'm Jeff Sharon. Enjoy the week. We will see you for basketball Wednesday night.